Hi everyone, McBeard here, back with, well, I'm not back with anything. This is the first time I've ever said this. We have card reveals for a new expansion for Gwent. This is Gwent's first spoiler season. This is the first time I've ever reviewed a new card in this way. I mean, we've seen new cards come in for closed beta. We've seen new cards come in through changes. And of course, the game was reinvented for Homecoming. So we've had a chance to really evaluate lots of stuff over the time of Gwent. But right now, this time, this is new cards from a new expansion with new keywords and new ways for us to explore how we're going to make those numbers go up and down in Gwent, right? So introducing the Crimson Curse, the first card expansion to Gwent. So it seems as if the curse, which is this blood moon type deal, the curse is caused by Detlef, the higher vampire. They talk about what this might bring in to Gwent. So first of all, it's saying 100 new cards, 31 neutral cards, and 14 for each faction. It's a lot of cards, but it's a lot of neutral cards. So let's hope, well, you know what? Let's not put our hopes anywhere right now, because I think that what we're seeing so far is awesome, and there's no need to jump to any conclusions. We know 100 cards are coming. We know 14 faction cards. We can start filling out those grids, those Excel spreadsheets. So let's jump into these first 5 cards for the Crimson Curse, as the Dryads of Broccolon, Sintren Mages, Toussaint Knights, Svalblood Cultists, and Vampires, representing monsters, are all joining the fight that will shape the future of the Witcher world. So this is actually canon as well, and it's present day, which is also interesting considering any ending that you get in any of the expansions or stories in The Witcher are hard canon. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, please. But there is a world here in which, I mean, nothing is ever really going to be canon in Gwent because Foltest is alive, and, you know, there's like lots of characters that are not alive that are alive. So there is always going to be this sort of time-shifted world that Gwent will occupy. And I think there's some fun places to explore with that idea, shifting time. But right now, we're all about the Blood Moon. So let's talk about the new cards in the Crimson Curse. The very first card that we have seen, starting off with a tiny little section of this artwork teased by Paul Berja, is this Northern Realms card, WINDHALM of ATTRE, and he is a 2-strength unit that is 7 recruit cost to put in your deck, and he has a new keyword called shield, but it isn't a new keyword, is it? So he comes down with a shield on him, and the shield means that the first instance of damage is negated completely. Sound familiar? Yeah, it's QUEN. QUEN is coming back as a core mechanic, and it looks like Northern Realms is going to get it. So all hail QUEN. I mean, I really felt like QUEN was really hard to deal with when any engine in the game could get it because it was a neutral card. If it's restricted to Northern Realms, it can be balanced around Northern Realms abilities generally. So I like this. So shield. Every allied turn on turn end boosts this unit by 2 if it has a shield. So it's on turn end, so when you play WINDHALM, he drops down, he immediately boosts himself to 4, so you get 4 immediately. To remove WINDHALM, you would need to either remove him with something sweeping like a Scorch or an Epidemic or something like that, or you'd have to hit it twice. One of the reasons why QUEN was so good is that the pings that players would play weren't always just like 1-2 point pings that didn't mean anything. Sometimes you had to actually go 2 for 1 against a QUEN unit. So it's different now. There are so many more pings, and there are so many ways to build a different suite of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 point pings in any given deck. But we don't know how lock interacts with shield. I can assume that a lock shuts the shield down and the ability, so this guy is just vulnerable to a lock, but I think that's okay for a 7 provision point card. All right, my friends, we have a new Bronze Squayatel card. This is Dryad Ranger, a barely clothed ranger leaping out of the woods at 2 strength for 5 recruit cost. This means that this will likely be a core bronze in any Squayatel deck that would want to run it, and what a great card it is. This card has 2 keywords on it, one of which I feel like maybe could have been in Squayatel at launch, but I'll forgive you if you're going to give us 2 really cool keywords on this card. The first keyword is Harmony. What Harmony does is any unit with Harmony gets boosted by 1 anytime a new race a Scoia'tael race enters the battlefield. So this is a Dryad with Harmony. So if a Dwarf were to enter the battlefield, the Dryad's Harmony would trigger and she would get boosted by 1. So it's kind of like an interesting new take on Thrive that is very, very catered to some of the stuff that Scoia'tael was already trying to do, but really couldn't do because they didn't have enough Dryads, because there's only 2 in the game right now, and they didn't have enough cards that cared about that. But there is Eisenscrib's Council, and there is Beckenbauer as well. So both of those cards care and get huge value in situations where you have multiple races on the board. So this harmonious Scoia'tael could be a thing, but we're not even done yet. Now we're talking about poison as well. This is another mechanic that could be neutral, but I have a feeling that Scoia'tael is going to be the faction that uses this mostly. But poison appears to be a ping that does nothing the first time, but the second time just straight out removes a unit. By itself, this seems kind of bad, but I can see that there's probably a lot of ways. There's probably a gold card that's just massive in this set that poisons your entire opponent's board, or something like that. That's a high provision point cost. But I think that there are probably a lot of ways to apply multiple instances of poison, and it's possible that the leader the Scoia'tael receives could be based around poison as well, applying poison charges. I think you just can get so much out of the future of Scoia'tael just with this one card. And here is the from the website description of those 2 abilities. My friends, did you think we were done with the big reveals? Because we're not. This is a massive reveal that reveals another 2 keywords and something we've been dying to see. Vampires. Crimson Curse is here. The vampires are coming out. And look at these cute little guys. There are no keywords on here, but you can make an educated guess that this is a vampire. So this is a 4 recruit cost card. So this is even more core than the Ranger, you might say, in that any card that cares about vampires, this new bleeding effect, this new bonded effect, or even Thrive in general, because, you know, coming down at 3 is always good. This is just going to be a great card for monsters, probably no matter what, because you can look at it, what it does already. So let's talk about the keywords on this card, which is the Plumard. Why destroy your enemies when you can slowly bleed them over time, causing them to lose power every turn? So it seems like this is sort of like a specialized personal weather effect for anything that gets hit with it. In other card games, this effect has always felt so lame, but in Gwent, where it's all about the numbers and the card strength is actually what it's providing to your board. I think that having like a crazy amount of bleed effects triggering like a reverse kind of engine, draining engine, is a really cool idea. It actually sounds really scary. But what the Plumard is able to do is it gives an enemy unit bleeding for 2 turns. So while for the next 2 turns, this unit is going to lose 1 power, and it's also going to have the bleeding status effect. And even though we don't see anything here about a bleeding status effect mattering, mark my words, I mean, it better matter. So there's going to be a bleeding status effect. And if this card is bonded, which means that if this card is played with another card that either has bonding or another vampire or another Plumard, I don't think it's not entirely clear here what the bond is, but I will assume that the bond is the same card. Like this has to be another Plumard next to it, because the effect seems okay. But if it's bonded to another vampire, it seems really good, because now you're getting 7 value out of a 4 provision card. You're already getting 5 to start with, plus you're putting a status effect on the board that could give more value to other cards. I hope that bonding is not as easy as it may appear, but I also, you know, we can't really jump to any conclusions again, my friends. But it's fun too. That's what spoiler season's all about. Card number 4 today on the big reveal, the disgraced brawler for Skellige. Don't punch below the belt, or else you will be a disgraced brawler like this gentleman right here. He has a cool new effect as well. So for 5 recruit cost, this guy comes into your deck at 7 strength. Damn, that's value. But there is a drawback, of course, in that he has this berserk effect, which on this card is being highlighted as a negative, but I imagine that there are a number of cards that you wouldn't mind berserking. But in this situation, Berserk is an effect that happens when this card hits half health. I feel like maybe I think everything rounds up. I think everything in Gwent rounds up when we're talking about halves. I think that's the consistency. So in this situation, if this unit is pinged for 3, it is destroyed completely. However, if you have Bloodthirst of 3 on the board, this guy locks himself, meaning that you just got 7 points for 5 provisions, and all you had to do is build the board you were going to build anyway. So he's kind of like the Nilfgaardian Knight, but better, really, but harder to trigger. A card that will see play in Arniolf Supercharge round, or really any card that's just got a lot of pings going on. You know, Skellige's really good at doing that. So we get a new keyword here. A lot of things to think about, positive and negative berserks. And this, I feel like, is probably the tamest one. This is probably the tamest, lamest one. And it still is very thought-provoking. I like this card. The final card we got in the reveal is a neutral card, a neutral special card at 4, and we know how popular those cards are getting lately. This one's pretty good. Damage a unit by 3, and it has a new sort of keyword called Death Blow. What Death Blow means that if this unit that deals damage, or in this case, this special card that deals damage, if that damage destroys the unit that it hits, an additional effect occurs. Currently, we see this effect on cards like the Rivian Pikeman, which I believe in the expansion will be updated to have Death Blow, as there was a previous pre-hotfix portion, like a window of time in the last patch, in which this card on the live server did have Death Blow. So this is already in-game, sort of, but it looks like it's getting much more of a showcase right now. So Death Blow in this situation, I mean, it definitely has its uses, I'm sure. It's a 4-point damage by 3, which is quite good. If you've played Dimerdium Shackles, you know that oftentimes you end up using it for the ping in the first place. And if you've ever played a card like Rock Barrage, which you could kind of say has like a reverse Death Blow effect, in that if it doesn't kill the unit, it's going to move it. That card feels overpriced. This card feels like it actually might be priced well enough that it sees play in a control deck. It sees play in maybe a deck like Brand that wants to throw away special cards, but maybe use them if the time is right, you know. And of course, movement, having another neutral tool here is right there. And also, you'll notice that it says damage a unit by 3, so you can, in cheeky ways, I'm sure, manipulate your own board. Let's say you had Sabrina on a row. If you killed Sabrina, your opponent Sabrina on your side of the board with SAMMUM, would the Death Blow move a unit off? It would only move one unit off, right? Would it move a unit off your side of the board before the trigger goes on with Sabrina, or would it happen after? I wonder. When Death Blow triggers and when Death Wish triggers, because I think that that's going to have to be universal. Otherwise, if a Death Blow, let's say a Death Blow locks a unit that it kills, like old Assassination used to do. So if you were to Death Blow and lock it, that means that the Death Blow would have to occur before the Death Wish occurs. So in that case, and I feel like that's going to be a card. I feel like we've already seen Gwent stuff that indicates that that could be a card. There's just lots to talk about here, guys. This is the first of 5 cards, and I think we're going to see possibly, I mean, who knows? What if we get 5 cards a day, guys? I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go through this with you all. This is YouTube, my friends. If you like the video, show me, tell me. I'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you think about the cards in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys.